Hi guys, I'm Beth. This is Remark. I have my special helper Max with me today, and I'm going to be talking about The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. I'm so excited to be talking about The Memory Police today. Here's the thing. Usually on my BookTube channel, what I do is I take one book and I review it. However, oftentimes I will come across a book that I really love, and instead of doing a legit review, I spend 10 minutes basically gushing about it, dissecting it, analyzing it, just really delving into all the things I loved about it. This will be one of those reviews. Basically, my review is I loved The Memory Police. So, I had never heard of this book before. It was actually one that was recommended on the Discord group that the Poptimist runs. It was done as one of the buddy reads. And so I picked it up, figuring I'd check it out, and was completely enthralled. It is a dystopian novel set in Japan. It's actually translated from Japanese. The gist of the story is that there's this little island in Japan that things, for as long as our main character can remember, things just disappear. And along with those things, the people's memories of them disappear. At first it starts off somewhat innocuous. Things like ribbons or perfume or green beans or music boxes, things like that will disappear. And once they disappear, the people just can't. It's like they had never existed in the first place. People can't even wrap their heads around what that thing was. Now, to enforce the disappearance is what they call the memory police. These are like armed guards who come in and help eradicate every piece of that thing that they can. So, for example, if it's ribbons, you'll suddenly wake up to see the ocean full of ribbons, and then the memory police searching everybody's homes, having these bonfires to burn up all the ribbons, and making sure that nobody has held onto any remnants of that whatsoever by force. Among these people are some who can still remember, but those are far and few between. The memory police begin to get suspicious and start genetic testing people to see if they are these magical rememberers. Our main character's mother was one of these magical rememberers. What became of her? You're going to have to read the book to find out. Now, one thing I liked about this book was that our main character was not a dystopian hero. I have found it kind of a trend, especially in YA dystopian novels, where the person that we follow is the hero who is somehow magically immune to all of these powers and forces that are working against society. And they are the one true hero who can save everyone, who can change everything. So life on this island, as things continue to disappear and the memory police get more and more police-ific, life just gradually gets worse and more empty and just... Okay, except I'm exaggerating a little bit. I mean, it's not like things blow up in an explosion of horribleness. In fact, it's quite the opposite. One of the remarkable things about the memory police is how quietly and gently things go into that good night. There's no fighting against the dying of the light. It's just that the people on the island kind of just accept it as the new normal. They accept it and they move on. And so sometimes things will disappear that mean, it basically means taking out something that was central to that person's livelihood or their soul or their character, or, you know, things that were so important to these people that just disappear, and they just have to quietly, gently move on onto other things. Because it never existed, which is so sad to me. So, not coincidentally, our main character, who is a fiction writer, begins writing these stories about people who lose their voices and must find these elaborate ways to communicate otherwise. For example, through typewriter, or through these elaborate silver polishing processes that they go through every day. Basically, her stories begin to become infused by people who have no voice anymore. So even though our main character still has her literal voice, I mean, she can talk. You can tell that she's feeling her freedom to express herself being stripped away from her, especially as the memory police become more and more, what's the word for bad, as they become more bad and frustrating in their actions. She becomes more frustrated in her inability to have any sort of action or reaction. So there are shades of all sorts of things and themes that can be found within the memory police. For example, genocide, because there are these, memory police under the guise of duty who are dragging people out of these safe houses and putting them to death. So anyone who keeps the memory is pretty much marked for death. There are also shades of Nazi Germany, and I hate to make that association, and I don't make it lightly, but when you think about troops of officers that are targeting a certain population and putting them to death simply for being part of that population, it really brings up memories of Nazi Germany. There's also the thought of losing one's identity and censorship. Once the things were disappeared from memory, there was no sort of effort to remember them or keep them in the lexicon. They were censored completely from existence through threat of punishment and death. Through taking these things out, they were basically erasing who these very people were. There are also themes of institutionalization. So, when you talk about these lifers who go to jail, who they're in jail for so long that they become institutionalized and they don't really know how to survive on the outside world, I almost think about that with these people. Are they so institutionalized, so used to this, so ingrained with this into their lives and their souls that they would not necessarily know what to do otherwise? Is this the only way that they can live now? I don't know. These are theoretical questions that are brought up through the book. But the biggest question that I had was how? How did this happen in the first place? Why did it happen in the first place? Who or what was behind all of these memories and these things disappearing? For example, when the roses are disappeared and then we suddenly see the sea full of roses and they just wither and die. How? How did they get there? We know that some of it is through the memory police. Of course, they have a hand in it, but it also disappears from the people's very memories. So we know that there's some bigger thing, some bigger force at work than just the police themselves, making these things completely disappear from people's memories, unless it's just through willfulness, but I don't think that that's the case. How in the world does it happen? Does it happen anywhere else or just on this island? When did it start happening? Why is it happening? Is it God? Is it some malevolent being? Is it government testing that maybe the chemicals went wrong and got in the water and made everybody start going kerblooey in their minds? I don't know. It was something that I kept wondering throughout the book, and then wondering when they're going to explain it to us. It's never explained. And so I realized, about halfway through, maybe I'm not meant to ask those questions.
Maybe you are.
But maybe I'm not.
Maybe you are.
Maybe I'm not. Maybe the whole point is that we, like the characters in the book, are meant not to question it. We're not meant to rail against it and, fight, rise up, bring down the man. We're meant to just exist quietly within the reality of it, like the characters in the book do.
If you don't question anything, what are you, like a robot?
No.
Yes.
No, it's something very deliberate. And that's a very good question, Max, because it brings me to my next point, which is one that David of the Poptimist brought up, because he and Scott over at the Book Invasion BookTube channel and I got into kind of a little discussion on the Discord group about this book, because we were all so blown away by it.
Is that a Discord?
Yeah. Yeah, your mommy belongs to a Discord. Because I'm hip and happening like the youngsters.
I was going to say Aggie, but now you just said that sentence. Okay.
So we started talking about this book amongst ourselves, and David the Poptimist brought in this phrase, a Japanese phrase that I'm going to butcher because I do not speak Japanese, Mono no Aware. This is something that really made the book have much more sense to me. It made much more sense to me whenever he brought that concept in. It's basically a Japanese concept that, let me read this because I'm going to forget it. It's the awness of things, the beauty and gentle sadness of life's transience. And this is definitely something we see in the Memory Police, that we're not meant to ask why or to protest or, you know, fight against the dying of the light. Instead, we're meant to quietly exist within it like the people in the book did. There was no fighting, there was no yelling, there was no gnashing of teeth and, you know, shaking your fist at the clouds about all these things disappearing. There was simply gentle, sad acceptance, kind of a wistfulness about it. And that's very much in the in keeping with Mono no Aware, which just made it so, what's the word? Deep?
What? That's what she said.
Oh my God. Which made the book make just so much more sense to me and have so much more beauty. Beauty. It's very sad. The way it ended was just beautiful, and I can't even gather my words and my thoughts about it correctly, as you can see, but it just filled me with so much emotion, and it was just so quietly beautiful. There's an article in the New Yorker also that talks about this book in relation to some other books that fall under the category of magical realism. Magical realism is basically taking something that's almost completely lifelike, but then adding a fantastical element to it. So they included examples such as No Exit by Mohsin Hamid or The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. But basically, it's a book that is plausible. It seems like it could be something that would happen, but it's fantastical. It brings in these elements that kind of take on this fantastical or supernatural element within the real world. So it just brings that much more beauty and poignancy to it. Poignancy! That was the word I was looking for earlier.
What is poignancy?
When something is so, it just hits you right in the soul.
What?
So Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. Super good book. I highly recommend it. It's so beautiful. Quietly beautiful. I just want everyone to read it so I can talk about it. Alright, thank you so much for watching as always. Let me know your thoughts if you've read the book, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye. And they do all these atrocities thinking that they have to because of duty. I mean, I just said duty.
Oh my God, so immature.
I know.